أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Inshallah we'll continue with the stories of Hamza and Umar radiallahu anhuma. So let's try to understand the context of this incident first. So we are talking about 6th year of prophethood. So all those, ongoing tension and the fact that many of the Muslims are from the noble families, and they are gone to Abyssinia, and they Meccans, they have returned empty-handed. So this was a shock to them. It really, they got out of control, if you can put it that way. They got aggressive, even more aggressive with their behavior with the believers. So the tension started to rapidly escalate after this incident. The incidents that I'm going to mention in some sources, they are recorded like consecutive days. On Monday this happened, on Tuesday this happened, on Thursday, Wednesday this happened, on Thursday this happened, Friday this happened, something like this. So my understanding of this is they are happening right after another in a very short period of time. Maybe that, consecutive days may not be that accurate, but it really happened right after, one after the other, and it was rapidly escalating. And you can see that Meccans are very aggressive. Once they notice that this message is spread to all tribes, all seniors and their children, they are impacted with this, and they can't do anything to those who are in Abyssinia now. We need to go even, harsh and more aggressive on these people to solve this problem. So what happens is, first thing is, they decided to kill the Prophet ﷺ. This is one of the, Prophet ﷺ in his seerah, there was a nice book actually, I read some years ago, assassination attempts aimed at the Prophet. It just talks about those assassinations. Over 40 incidents happened throughout his life that he was saved from very serious things. So this is one of them, possibly, that, they are really serious, and they are going to put a lot of pressure on Abu Talib to lift, his support, so they can do whatever they want. They don't have courage to go and do something because there is they need to pay a price for that. There's a retaliation, there is qisas, a lot of, it can cause a tribal conflict, so they are not courageous to take that step. When they made that decision, around this time, Abu Talib with 30-40 people protected the Prophet ﷺ. And they couldn't do anything, and he made his position very clear. Some sources, they give that, anecdote around this time that when Prophet ﷺ came to Abu Talib, and Abu Talib says, this is what Meccans are offering you. In a way, you can see, what situation he was in, Abu Talib, the pressure on him. So Prophet said, if you put sun on my right hand, moon on the left, I'm not going to abandon this talk. So they would say this happened around that time as well. After this incident, once they realized that killing the Prophet is not an option at this stage yet, and they couldn't work out how to do that, they started to physically harm the Prophet ﷺ. And this is where, when Prophet ﷺ was harmed, and Abu Bakr noticed that, and he came and started to shout, أَتَقْتُلُونَ رَجُلًا أَن يَقُولَ رَبِّيَ اللَّهِ أَتَقْتُلُونَ رَجُلًا أَن يَقُولَ رَبِّيَ اللَّهِ. Are you going to kill a person because he's saying, my Lord is Allah and one? So he intervened. What happened is they started to beat Abu Bakr radiallahu anh this time. So you can see where this is, going. They started with vulnerable, poor slaves, but they are aiming now nobles, and they are not hesitant to attack the Prophet, physically harm him, or attack Abu Bakr, who is a noble person in the community. So Abu Bakr was left because they thought he's dead, literally. You know, it's not because they just harmed him and stopped. They literally beat him to death, and they assumed that he's dead. Let's leave him. So his tribe members, Banu Taym, they came and took him to his house. The story is long. I covered this before. The following day, something similar happened. When Prophet ﷺ was praying in the courtyard of Kabah, Abu Jahl this time, he started to tease him, humiliate him, and a woman, Abdullah ibn Jud'an's maid, slave, she noticed this. Abdullah ibn Jud'an is the person, Helful Fudul is taking place in his house. And this person's slave, sources, they don't give name. So Prophet ﷺ, he did not respond this vulgar, this humiliation of Abu Jahl. He just went home, and this woman noticed that, and when she is going, she saw Hamza coming from hunting. Hamza is, Prophet ﷺ's uncle, milk brother, and also from a distance, from mother's side, his cousin. So it's very close to the Prophet. In terms of age as well, there is only about 2 years difference. Milk brother is coming from, like, they both, milked through Suwayba, Abu Lahab's slave. So they are very close, but Hamza is a very different personality. He's a hunter. He's not much in the city. He knows what's happening to some extent, but not across details. He's a different personality. He's different. He has different interests. Not staying in Mecca most of the time. Once he heard that, when this lady reported that, Abu Jahl, he verbally, physically humiliating the Prophet ﷺ, he directly went to there, and with his bow, he struck on the head of Abu Jahl. He said, I heard that you did this to Muhammad. This time I'm using this. Next time, if you hear the sword will solve this issue, he said. So, then attacking Abu Jahl is attacking someone from Bani Makhzum tribe. People started to intervene. Abu Jahl is a very smart man. Very smart man, very committed, but he is using this, intellect, this brain for wrong purposes. He immediately intervened and said, "Stop! Don't do anything," because I said some bad words to his cousin, his brother. So he stopped them, and you can see, because if he is not going to stop them, that is going to solidify the position of Hamza. He said, and he turned to Abu Jahl turned to Hamza and he said, Abu Umara, that's his kunya, his nickname. Do you know what he says to our forefathers, our idols? Whatever he says, Hamza said, I believe in him. Because he was so angry, he just said, I believe in him. He wasn't sure what he's saying to a large extent, because he's reacting now. So Abu Jahl is trying to save the moment, because if Hamza has a solid belief, it means a great power behind the Muslims. That's something they don't really want. So he stopped anybody to intervene, and he left him. Hamza started to think about what he did, really. What he is doing, what he did, what this person is talking about, the news that comes to his ears. Now he started to internalize that. According to some sources, he went to Kabah that night, prayed. Because Meccans, remember, they believe in one actually, but they associate partners to him. So he went there and he said, give me guidance. He asked for guidance, and then went to the Prophet ﷺ, and Prophet ﷺ he kind of started with what he did to Abu Jahl, to say, you know, I take revenge of what he did to you. Prophet wasn't interested in that, really. That didn't give him any pleasure, you know, him returning back and, you know, striking on his head. So he said, aren't you happy with that I took revenge of them? No, Prophet said, if you want to make me happy, give shahada. Believe in oneness of God. That is going to make me happy. What are you waiting for? So when he explained, things really settled in Hamza's heart, and he gave the shahada in that moment. So that was, you know, although Meccans, they are aiming something else, Allah has a different plan. Anything they are doing is working against them. Anything they are doing, it's working against them. That's really something we need to understand. You know, we may seem to be weak through the measures of these worldly measures in certain circumstances. But the result, وَالْعَاقِبَةُ لِلْمُتَّقِينَ. Result is for the righteous, and that is determined by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He can turn, you know, something that looks like dark to a day. Something looks like winter, it is the best, you know, glad tiding of a spring, a summer coming. The darkness is a great indication. You know, اشتد ظلمة تنفرج, they say in Arabic. Become as dark as possible, because it is going to be dispelled by the sunrise. It is the glad tiding of the day coming. So that is really, you can see, things are getting darker and darker. On one hand, it looks like situation is getting worse, but, you know, amidst this tension, this hardship, this adversity, you see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala showing the light for people and giving them hope that, you know, no matter what they are doing, disbelievers, ultimately result is in Allah's hand. He can turn these things. So according to sources, on that night that Hamza is making his mind, Prophet ﷺ is in Dar Al-Arqam making a supplication. Like, imagine, you know, he is harmed by someone like Abu Jahl. Remember the beginning of today's talk. He is harmed by someone, his arch enemy, Abu Jahl, right? He's physically now attacking him. Prophet ﷺ, he is raising his hands. This is what Kabah is going to say the following day. He is raising his hands, "O Allah, support this cause with one of the two Amrayn, that whom you love. Support this cause with one of two Amr. Amr ibn Hisham, Omar ibn al-Khattab. The root is Amr, Ayn Mim Ra, Amrayn. One of the two Amr, either Omar ibn al-Khattab or Amr ibn Hisham, which is Abu Jahl, because they are at the same caliber. You know, as I said, Abu Jahl is using all this in a wrong direction. That's why there is a problem. If he uses that power, that, you know, intellect for the right purposes, he would have been Abu al-Hakam, the father of hikmah, wisdom. But he used this for darkness, so he is father of jahala, Abu Jahl, ignorance. He's father of ignorance. So Prophet ﷺ made that supplication. The following day, something interesting happened, extraordinary, which is a response to the Prophet's. You can understand, you know, supplication of the Prophet, but you can understand the circumstances. You know, things are getting hard. So he's turning to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, asking for help, asking for relief. You know, difficulties also are the best time to ask for Allah's help. So at that moment, Prophet ﷺ, he raised his hands. So the following day, interesting things will happen, but in relation to Umar radiallahu anh, not Abu Jahl. But before we talk about Omar's conversion, so people, they start from that day. But I think we need to take this a little bit back. Omar's conversion is not just one day incident that, he was decided to kill and this person stopped him and then he made his mind after listening to the Quran. It has certain stages. If you carefully read the story of Umar radiallahu anh, the first stage happened, at least when we scrutinize the sources, happened when people, Muslims, they were migrating to Abyssinia. So one of the things, slaves of Umar in the family, in the household, is called, the name is Amr ibn Rabi'a, and his wife, Fatima, Layla, Amr ibn Rabi'a and Layla. So these people, they are among the migrants who went to Abyssinia. When they were making preparations, Umar radiallahu anh saw Layla and said, "What are you doing? What's going on?" She said, you didn't leave us a room to live here. Because of you, we are going to leave our homeland. She was very angry with Umar radiallahu anh, but that really touched Umar's hand, and she saw that sorrow in his face. When she is talking to Amr ibn Rabi'a, her husband, she says, Umar came today, noticing that we are packing up and doing something, and this happened. I feel like he's going to embrace Islam. And this person, Amr ibn Rabi'a, said, his father, Khattab, has a donkey who passed away, died. That donkey will resurrect and give shahada, but Umar will never give shahada. Yeah, they were not expecting, but the woman noticed that because Umar, is someone who is on the side of justice. He wasn't able to tolerate that accusation that because of you, this is happening to us and we are leaving our homeland. And to some extent it was true because he was beating them. I told this story before. He was stopping and he was saying, "Don't assume that, I'm leaving you alone because I'm tired. I'll come back and continue from where I left." He was so harsh. He was committed because he thinks that, this disunity in Mecca is happening because of you guys. Because this thing started, before that, before all those things, there was kind of a peace in Mecca. We were living our lives. Everything was okay. Out of a sudden, he is not able to think, tolerate two division or two haq. In his mind, he is on the haq, but the other thing cannot be haq, right? He needs to solve this problem. In another occasion, this is first one. So on those days, we are talking about around the same time. One night he noticed that Prophet ﷺ is in Kabah praying. Remember, he would pray at nights and recite, out loud. So Prophet ﷺ is reciting Surah Haqqah. Surah Haqqah, very powerful. Makki surahs are really powerful, in terms of eloquence. When you read, it hits you. If you know Arabic, it really hits you. So Prophet ﷺ recites this surah, Al-Haqqah, Mal-Haqqah, and he secretly is listening to this. He said, this verse, not normals. And Prophet ﷺ, when he says this, Prophet is reciting, Innahu laqawlu rasulin karim. These are the words, recitation of a noble messenger. No, he says, this is like a poetry. وَمَا هُوَ بِقَوْلِ شَاعِرٍ, Quran says. Like he's in his mind, he's making some assumptions. Recitation is responding to his assumptions. وَمَا هُوَ بِقَوْلِ شَاعِرٍ قَلِيلًا مَا تُؤْمِنُونَ. This is not a prose of a poet, as you claim. How little you think or you have faith. And then he said, no, then it's a kahina. He knows what I'm thinking at the moment. And the Quran says, وَلَا بِقَوْلِ كَاهِنٍ قَلِيلًا مَا تَذَكَّرُونَ. It is not the numbering of a fortune teller, soothsayer. You know, how little, hardly you are mindful of this. And he says, what is this then? تَنْزِيلٌ مِّن رَبِّ الْعَالَمِينَ. It is a revelation from the Lord of the worlds. And he says, I need to go out of here. This is going to impact me. And he left the scene. Right? So these things are deep down in his heart, has something implanted already. What Layla said to him, what happened in this night. But the tension is ongoing. As we said, they are now aiming, the Prophet aiming, Abu Bakr aiming senior people, and they had a gathering in Darul Nadwa. They are talking what to do. Let's do this, let's do that. Omar said, enough is enough. I'm going to solve this problem. You are just postponing it. This shouldn't be lingering in Mecca. I'm going to solve this with my sword. The problem is Muhammad, he said, and I need to solve this problem. He took his sword. He heard that he is somewhere in Safa Hill, and he is heading towards that. And a person by the name of Omar ibn Abdullah, he noticed Omar ibn al-Khattab. He is someone who listened to that supplication a day before. He's a believer who is a member of Dar Al-Arqam. Omar doesn't know him, like in terms of his belief, that he's a believer, he's a Muslim already. He said, Omar, what's happening? Where are you going? Where are you heading? Why you are in rush? I'm going to solve this problem in Mecca. He is after haq in his mind. He thinks that, you know, there is a problem in Mecca. I need to solve it, even if it is going to cost. These Meccan leaders, they are not really taking the risk to solve the problem altogether. I need to solve this problem. And he said, you know, I'm going to kill Muhammad. I heard he is somewhere in the Safa Hill. And Nuaym, who is well aware of the Prophet's supplication, there are two options here, right? One, he knows that this supplication is going to be accepted. And he probably said, this is going to be accepted for this person. So I need to pave the way for this guidance. He directed his attention to something else. Or to save the Prophet ﷺ. Regardless of the circumstances, he is a believer. He is aware of that supplication of the Prophet ﷺ. He said, Ya Umar, before solving the Meccans' problems, why don't you solve your own problem? Your sister and brother-in-law, they are Muslim too. Like another shocking news for him. Like this shook him to the core, really. Like, how come he's saying? So he has a sister by the name of Jamil. Her sister's name is Fatima. Nickname is Jamil, not Abu Lahab's wife, another Jamil. And her husband is Sa'id ibn Zayd. So Sa'id ibn Zayd is among those 10 companions who has glad tidings of paradise, Ashari Mubashar. Very senior, very noble companion of the Prophet ﷺ. His father is, remember, I was referring to Zayd ibn Amr, who was yearning for haqq, doing a lot. Hanif person before Prophet's emergence, talking about someone emerging very soon. If he comes, believe in him. So his son immediately believed in him because he knew that his father was talking about that. Because of his search for the haqq, Zayd ibn Amr was killed actually on his way to, to searching for the truth. Omar's uncle, Sa'id ibn Zayd's father. So he went to the house of Thing. When he was nearing the house, he heard a noise. Like, houses are not like this at that time. If people are talking inside, it would be heard most of the time. It's not that there's no, walls, like very strong walls and other stuff. Anyway, so once they noticed Omar is coming, they just gathered everything together. Someone is reciting the Quran. He found a place to hide. And he said, what were you reciting? I heard you are a Muslim. And he started to strike, beat Sa'id ibn Zayd. His own sister, as a woman at that time, she intervened. He said, yes, we are believers. Do whatever you want. He slapped on her face and blood started to come out of her face. That really touched Omar's heart as well. He started to think about it. A woman is behaving like this in Mecca at that time, like not to an ordinary person, to Omar, that everybody is scared of, or normally, like where this strength is coming from, right? And when the blood was falling on her face as well, something has also dropped in his heart. There is something here that I need to find out. He collected himself. He said, bring me what you were reciting. What were you reading? She said, you're not pure. I can't give it to you. Some people, they don't understand this part. These people are Hanif people. Purification is a legacy of Ibrahim alayhi salam. They are well aware of what it means. Yes, it may not mean wudu that we know, but it is definitely something they are well aware. So after taking those rituals, he took the parchments and started to read Surah Taha, which was just revealed on those days. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Taha, ma anzalna alayka al-Qur'an litashqa illa tadhkiratan liman yakhsha تنزيلا ممن خلق الأرض والسماوات العلى الرحمن على العرش استوى له ما في السماوات وما في الأرض وما بينهما وما تحت الثرى وإن تجهر بالقول فإنه يعلم السر وأخفى الله لا إله إلا هو له الأسماء الحسنى. He recited this, such a beautiful verse. Beautiful verse. And Khabbab, who was hiding, he came out and he said, glad tidings, Ya Umar. Glad tidings, Ya Umar. This is what happened last night, and I believe this supplication is accepted for you. Prophet ﷺ made a supplication for you and Abu Jahl, but I believe this is going to be accepted for you. He said, did he really make that supplication? Yes, he did. So he said, I'm going to embrace Islam. So everything has changed. Show me where he is. So they went together to Dar Al-Arqam, Arqam ibn Abdul Arqam's house. The intention was to kill him. Now he is heading. Still his swords is with him. People noticing that Omar at the door knocking, they are scared. Hamza was inside. He said, let him come. If his intention is good, that's good. If his intention is bad, we know how to give him a lesson. He is not going to be scared of a person because of power. Hamza is a lion hunter. Yes, Omar is a very strong man, but Hamza is not an ordinary man too. He said, let him come. So when he comes, according to some sources, Prophet actually, he came and took his things. Said, Omar, isn't the time for you? Are you waiting something like revealed, about my uncle Abu Lahab? Is this what are you after? Isn't it time for you? He said, Ya Rasulullah, I came to give Shahada. And he gave the Shahada there. He embraced Islam. And he immediately said, why we are hiding? Why we are hiding, he said. And Prophet said, our number is small. No matter what he said, Ya Rasulullah, I'm going to sit every single sitting that I have been sitting up until this moment as a disbeliever, now as a believer. And when he is out going, he came across a person. His name is Jamil. I forgot his name. This person is a very interesting person. You give him a secret, he suppressed the secret. That's his quality. He said, "Yeah, Jamil," as I said, I can't recall his exact name. "I'll give you a secret, don't tell anyone," he said. And everybody heard that Omar is now a believer. And he immediately ran to Abu Jahl, which is his uncle from the mother's side, from Bani Makhzum. They are, Bani Adi, Bani Makhzum, they are sub-clans. He immediately went to Abu Jahl. He declared that he embraced Islam. Abu Jahl was furious. No matter what he said, "I am Muslim." And then he kept telling everybody that he is a Muslim. He returned back to Dar Al-Arqam and insisted. And this, supplication thing, his conversion is happening in the morning. He was so insisting that they happened to pray Dhuhr prayer with the Prophet in Kabah, publicly. But this marks the end of Dar Al-Arqam period. And, sources are really clear on that. They went there with the Prophet ﷺ publicly, and this really marked the end of, because it was, the house is revealed now because of these developments, and they went out together whatsoever. But interesting things are going to happen. This is going to take Meccans completely out of control. And 3 days after this, they would say, they declared the boycott. Boycott started immediately after this because Hamza, Omar, consecutively embracing Islam was such a booster for believers, and they got out of control. And they didn't follow the normal proceedings. Abu Jahl did not follow the normal proceedings. Inshallah, we'll talk about that in the next thing, boycott, and how this came about. But I really want to finish this talk with something that Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, a great companion of the Prophet. Abdullah ibn Mas'ud is such an important person, considered as the sixth believer, among Muslims. And Prophet ﷺ, he considered him among the Ahlul Bayt, member of his household, very close person to the Prophet ﷺ. He was looking after personal matters of the Prophet ﷺ as well. Like some people are really close to him. Abdullah ibn Mas'ud is one of them. So Abdullah ibn Mas'ud says he really praises Umar radiallahu anh a lot. You need to ask people who know them, right? You can't make your minds by strangers commenting on someone. Like if I say Sadiq is this person, if I don't know, don't take anything from me. If you're sure that I know him, take it. That's the safest approach. So Abdullah ibn Mas'ud is someone who really knows. He said Umar's conversion, his shahada is fath. It's a victory for Muslims. His migration, his hijrah, is nusra, he says. It's a great support for Muslims. When we come to that moment, we will understand what he means. And he says his khilafah, his caliphate, is a rahmah for Muslims. So his conversion was fath, his migration was nusra, and his khilafah was rahmah. And he says that the days with, this second remark is so extraordinary too. The days with Umar are like second Ramadan for us. Second Ramadan. People didn't understand. They said, what do you mean by that? In Ramadan, shaitans are chained. Right? Because Prophet ﷺ said, Umar, you are a person that if you come across with shaitan with the same road, he will change his road. Shaitan cannot, walk on the street that you're walking. So he says his days were rahmah. his khilafah was rahmah for believers. He was the door, according to Prophet ﷺ. When he was talking about predictions in the future, when the door lifted, fitnas are going to emerge. Really, after Umar's shahada, a lot of fitnas, mihnas, happened in the course of Islam. So he was really a great person, and you can see, what that supplication also means. Why Prophet ﷺ would ask this cause, religion, to be supported by one of these two. Abu Jahl had that great potential as well. Unfortunately, he couldn't overcome his pride. He couldn't overcome his prejudices. That great potential was utilized for wrong purposes, and he died as father of Jahala. When he died in Battle of Badr, Prophet ﷺ, he came, where those 7 leaders of Mecca were buried. He said, was it worth that you spend your life for this? Omar said, Ya Rasulullah, they are dead. They cannot hear you. Prophet ﷺ said, they are hearing better than what you hear. So it's really opportunity that everybody has. Allah does not really, punish a person. He's not creating for that purpose. Human beings, we as human beings, we are earning, we are working to earn something that is going to work for us or against us. And we all have that great potential. We all have that great potential. We need to make the right decision, right? Najdain, Quran says. Alam naj'al lahu najdain. 2 options we all have. If we utilize this zakkaha to purify our nafs for the good, then we are going to earn something that is better for us, good for us. If we are utilizing opportunities, talents, skills, potentials on the wrong direction, dassaha, then we are tainting our heart. And when the heart is tainted and not purified, it's going to be sealed ultimately. Khatam Allahu ala qulubihim. So, and then nobody can help us. May Allah protect us from that wrongdoings and give us a consciousness to make the right decisions. Like Omar radiallahu anh, in a very furious moment, made the right decision, which changed the course of history, changed the course of his own destiny as well to some extent. So we'll stop here, inshallah.